You keep scheming and going down a twisted path instead of doing what I tell you.
Emotions did he circle that he thought his father might be having at that moment?
He thought his father was feeling frustrated, stuck, thwarted, angry, mad, upset, and furious.
Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Barovsky, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast listeners around the world, throughout the country, and into the galaxy, anywhere you're living and listening. This is the Feeling Good podcast, episode 405. This is another Ask David episode. David and I are going to do the first question by ourselves, and then we're going to have Matt join us.
Fantastico. Anytime we can work together, it's joyous, and anytime Matt can join us, it's even more joyous.
Exactly. I thought I would start with a recent endorsement that you received from a wonderful member of our Wednesday training group. She's a wonderful person, and she lives in Europe.
Yeah, and a very smart lady and a very hardworking lady, I might add.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she writes, "Hi, David. Since I don't know much about Greek Stoics and practical philosophy, I looked it up, and I'm amazed about what I read. I admit I have never really cared much about these subjects, but now that I have read into them, I find them interesting. Funny how your comment, I modeled something not far back that you didn't like, has opened up something totally new to me that I would probably have never discovered were it not for your comment. I'm really looking forward to your podcasts on practical philosophy. Warmly, Carolyn."
Well, thank you for that sweet letter, Carolyn. And I have to apologize. I'm recovering from laryngitis, so my voice may be a little on the croaky side. and but at any rate, it's kind to send that letter of encouragement. We, from time to time, certain philosophical issues come up that have relevance to our work, not only to symptoms that we have and negative thoughts that we have about ourselves, but also how to get over feelings of inadequacy and worthlessness. And in addition, certain philosophical problems relate an awful lot to the DSM and diagnoses, and we'll be explaining that. But I'm thinking, although I've run into some pretty stiff resistance, but of having
Really?
5 consecutive weeks on 5 of the most common philosophy problems, and so you could have them kind of all in one place. And those problems have to do with the following so-called philosophical questions. One is, do you have free will, or do we as human beings have free will? That's a very famous philosophical problem. Number 2 would be, do you have a self? Do human beings have a self, or is that some kind of illusion, or what is it? And then I'm trying to think of what 3, 4, and 5 are. I think that one of them is, are some human beings more worthwhile than other human beings? Or is it possible for humans to be worthwhile? Or we could also say for that one, what is self-esteem, and, how can I get it? And how can I get rid of it once I've got it? So that would be the third one. And then there's one on,
How can I
you
get
know,
rid of it?
yeah, yeah. First, how do I develop self-esteem, and then how do I get rid of it once I've got it? We'll cover that. And then also, is the universe real? It sounds like a stupid question. And is the universe one? You know, some mystics say the universe is one. So we'll be kind of going over things like that, but we'll be bringing them home to practical issues that and emotional issues that we all confront in our lives. So anyway,
Okay.
that's coming up starting next week.
So let's go with our very first question, which is a pseudonym from someone. And he writes, my father can be very critical of my plans for the future. What's the best way to respond to him? To explain somewhat concisely, I just want to move to the nearest major city, since I feel really, really happy there. I also love volunteering for a specific organization and have some community there that I care about. And I feel very isolated having been away from there for months. I'm willing to carry the load of all the work I would need to do to make it happen and do a business training my dad wants me to complete. He has other thoughts. He looks down on volunteering, and his thoughts on friends are simply that I can make new ones anyway. He's very aggressive and intimidating in his arguments, full of insults and many factually incorrect statements that are difficult to disarm on the fly. He shoots down the idea upon mention, so it's difficult to collaborate to find mutually beneficial solutions. He is a successful businessman despite some recent financial issues, and he has a strict plan for me that he has wanted me to follow, although I really don't feel this conflicts with his goals to have me run things in the future. I'm just worried since he has a long past of being emotionally abusive and of going back on his word. Plus, I just want some autonomy. In the end, it's his way or the highway. He says, you keep scheming and going down a twisted path instead of doing what I tell you. And so he originally wrote to us, David, and then you asked him to complete the first 4 steps of a relationship journal so we could see exactly how he's communicating with his father.
Yeah. Now, before we go on, why Rhonda might we want to see what he does with a relationship journal, because he's talking about this conflict with his father, and it's common. I want more autonomy. My dad is kind of controlling and has rigid ideas of what he wants me to do. And he says dad is kind of dogmatic, and you know, it's difficult to agree with him because he says things that aren't really true. And so why would we ask him to, this fellow we're calling Bosley, to protect his identity at his request? Why would we want him to do a relationship journal, Rhonda?
Well, this is a really hard concept. It's a hard concept for me too. You talk a lot about how we create the problem that we complain about. And when we fill out a relationship journal, we can see the dynamic in what other person said and what we've said. And as we start going through the process with the relationship journal, we can actually see it comes to life, how we are creating the problem that we're complaining about and how we're contributing to the conflict or the challenge or the difficulty in the relationship.
I love the way you said that. I've never heard
Oh,
it explained more clearer or more appealing language.
oh, thank you.
So yeah, so let's take a look at Bosley's relationship journal. We're going to do a couple of relationship journal problems today, actually, but the whole idea is that a lot of times, you know, we as human beings get into a conflict with somebody, and at least I do. Rhonda doesn't, and Matt doesn't, but
Oh,
a lot of us do.
sadly, I do too.
And then it's almost inevitable, irresistible to think that the other person's to blame, and we start blaming them and think it's the other person's fault, and we start, you know, pointing out all the things that they're doing wrong. Like in this case, Bosley says my father is controlling. That sounds like dad's to blame. And my father says things that aren't true, and so he's very hard to collaborate with, and that's just natural. And God bless you for sending us this wonderful problem, Bosley, and giving us a chance to show how the relationship journal can sometimes be surprisingly helpful if you're willing to look at your own role and stop promoting the idea that the other person is to blame. And I told a story to the Tuesday class that I think they appreciated a couple weeks ago when we started on the same topic. But when I was at Penn and I had my private practice, but I worked with a really neat guy, Howell Herring, who was a graduate student in regional science, which is an aspect of economics, and it's a very mathematical modeling kind of deal. And I had data from my practice, and I was trying to learn how to analyze it so I could publish papers. And, I just had a tremendous curiosity. And Howell showed me how to use the computer really, and how to analyze data and use SPSS. But I had this interesting database with over 1,000 people, and it was a survey I had made up to test attitudes about loving relationships, and I also have a very sensitive relationship satisfaction scale. And so I was testing concepts that cognitive therapists had been promoting were responsible for problems in relationships, beliefs like one, like I'm right and you're wrong. That's something you see a lot in troubled couples. They both take that argument. You see it even in war. Each side says our side is right and you're wrong. Or submissiveness, thinking that you have to always please the other person, and conflict phobia, which would be the fear of anger, the fear of conflict, or mind reading, where you think your partner is supposed to read your mind and know what you want and how you feel without having to tell them. And we were really pretty sure that these attitudes were, really the key to troubled marriages, troubled relationships. And so I put all this data in the computer, and in some places we had one partner only, and in other cases we had both partners in there. But for everyone, we had their relationship satisfaction score and whether or not it was a troubled relationship. And then we trained the computer to make up hypotheses and test them independently from us. And so the computer would say, well, suppose you have a heterosexual couple and there's a submissive wife and a dominant husband, controlling dominant husband. Would that be a particularly successful relationship or a problematic relationship? Or suppose you have two submissive people or two controlling people, and so the computer was able to make up about maybe 50,000 hypotheses per minute and test them. But looking at all these combinations, and we programmed the computer to do that. And when the analysis was done, the computer said that all of these theories is rubbish, and it's just noise, and there was no validity in any of these concepts except one. And it said only one single concept predicted current levels of satisfaction or conflict in a relationship, and had the capacity to predict the future as well. And so that was blame.
Oh, really?
And that blame was a massively powerful cause of relationship problems. And the idea isn't that the other person is to blame. The idea is that you're blaming them. And that blame process screws up relationships. And when that first came out, I was so disappointed because I was hoping for something very fancy so I could make a device that would analyze marriages based on these complex problems, and I'd have some fancy electronic algorithms. But the computer says, no, that's just all bullshit. There's only one thing that's relevant, and that's if you're blaming the other person.
Hmm.
And after a while, I came to see the truth in that, there's tremendous power in that. And that led to the development of the relationship journal and many other tools that I've developed for relationships. But the idea here, you know, it might be that Bosley's kind of blaming his dad. And if we look at his role, maybe we can see how he's contributing to this conflict. And if so, that would be good, because then he could change the way he interacts with his father. And even though we don't have him here right now, that's the idea behind the relationship journal. But we do have, you know, here's what my dad said and what I said next. And you want to go over that part next?
Well, I don't want to annoy you. I think I'm going to annoy you with my next question,
Oh, go
but I'm
ahead.
going to go for it anyway.
Okay, sure.
That's never stopped me. You know, he wrote that his father has a long past of being emotionally abusive to him. And I'm wondering if Bosley's might be afraid to talk to him, afraid that his father might, you know, attack him or say mean things to him or threaten him in some way. I
Sure.
don't know exactly how he's describing emotionally abusive, but what if there's some fear involved in speaking to his father?
Well, he may very well have some fear, and certainly that's something you'd want to take into account. And every time you're working with someone, whether or not it's a relationship problem. Uh, but when you say someone's emotionally abusive, that's a pretty popular term. It's a buzzword, and you know, I'm a victim, and the other person's emotionally abusive, and everyone's going to jump on that bandwagon. And you can take that approach if you want, but that wouldn't be something that I would know how to deal with. So my thinking tends to be politically incorrect. I like to say, if you know, Bosley, if you'd like, I'll help you examine your own role in this relationship at any moment that you were in conflict with your dad, and then we might see that there's ways that you could respond to him in a radically different manner and get a radically different response.
Okay, well, let's try that.
But is that something that you would be opposed to, Rhonda?
No, not at all. I just
Oh,
want to
okay.
know how to support him. I would want to know how to support him if he's afraid to speak with his father.
Yeah. So
Would that be
you'd
like
want to know, you'd want to help with the empathy phase of the session before we got to agenda setting and and the use of the relationship journal, because that's an important question
Yes,
too.
I think so. Maybe a daily mood log on what the fear means and what the thoughts are about the fear.
Yeah. Well, there's always an inner dialogue going on at the same time that there's an outer dialogue, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
So would you prefer to focus on that, and maybe we
No,
could come back? No,
not at
because
all.
that
No,
sounds
let's
like you'd
do the
have to fill out
relationship
a
journal.
daily mood log and take it up another week.
No, let's not do that. Let's
Okay.
do the
All
relationship
right.
journal.
All right.
I was just kind of strategizing.
Well, there's a lot of different dimensions to a relationship problem or any problem, and you're right to 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 look at all of those, look at the whole person.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so do you want me to be the dad or do you want me to be Bosley?
Well, I thought we could read his relationship journal.
So step one is that we were writing down what the other person said. So Bosley wrote down what his dad said.
Okay.
And he wrote, his dad told him, "You keep scheming and going down a twisted path instead of doing what I tell you."
Okay, I'm going to write that down. You keep scheming and going down a twisted path
Doing what I tell you.
instead of doing what I tell you. Okay, that's great. And then what emotions did he circle that he thought his father might be having at that moment?
He thought his father was feeling frustrated, stuck, thwarted, angry, mad, upset, and furious.
And I'm sure those feelings are all true. Could there be some tender feelings that
I,
Dad might be having that he's kind of
absolutely. I think he
overlooking? What would those be?
I think he might be feeling sad or unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he might be worried
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
nervous. Bosley also wrote rejected. I'm sorry, I didn't see that on the first page.
Oh, that he also, okay.
He
So
said,
I'll add that,
mhm.
rejected.
But he might also be feeling lonely.
That
And
was ours or his?
mine, that's ours,
Okay,
lonely
yeah, 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 feel,
and
yeah, lonely.
maybe a little discouraged.
Just discouraged. And and maybe, how about hurt?
And hurt. Yes. And
Uh,
hurt.
how about unappreciated?
Mm. Hurt, unappreciated, maybe confused.
You know, he doesn't sound confused to me.
No, he doesn't sound confused that his son isn't going down the path he's telling him to do. Confused about why his son's making these choices. Okay.
I don't know, it doesn't ring true to me, but it certainly, I mean, you can always toss it out there and ask him and ask the dad too. The dad sounds more kind of paranoid and angry, but with some hurt behind
Mm-hmm.
the paranoia. But yeah,
Okay.
I guess confused in the sense, I don't know why you're doing what you're doing, son.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I see what you mean. Yeah, that's a good one there. Now how did Bosley respond?
Bosley responded by just saying, what?
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a one-word response?
Correct.
Oh, and then how was Bosley? How did he say he was feeling?
Sad, blue, depressed, down, unhappy.
That's too fast for me because I'm writing this down. And if you're listening, you should be writing this down if you really want to get this analysis and learn how to do this. So sad, down.
Sad. You wrote down,
Mm-hmm.
blue,
Mm-hmm.
depressed, unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
panicky,
Mm-hmm.
nervous,
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, stuck, annoyed,
Mm-hmm.
and irritated.
Yeah. Any other feelings that you think that's a pretty good list that he came up with of his own feelings? Can you think of any others that Bosley might have been having?
I'm wondering if he's feeling any shame,
Okay, that we could certainly ask him.
or if he's feeling inadequate or defective.
Mm-hmm.
If he's also feeling rejected and lonely, humiliated, maybe self-conscious. I think he might certainly be feeling discouraged.
Yeah,
And
good.
also, I like how you said hurt.
Yeah,
I think he's also feeling really hurt.
right. Good analysis. Now we've got steps 1 and 2 on the relationship journal. What's step 3?
Step 3 is we look over your EAR, EAR, empathy, assertiveness, respect chart to see if, for Bosley to decide if he used good communication with his father or bad communication, the EAR checklist.
Yeah.
And he basically said that he used bad communication because he ignored his father's feelings or argued with him, insisted he was wrong. He failed to express his feelings, and his attitude was not respectful or caring.
Now, how do you think people might feel when they've been used to blaming the father or the other person, whoever you're in conflict with, and then you find out that EAR, you're not empathizing, you're not being assertive or sharing your feelings open, and you're not treating the other person in a loving and respectful way. How might that feel?
If they really paid attention to it, that would feel, like a lot of judgment and criticism, and it would feel really bad. Like
Yeah, right. Now, is that good or bad if you do this relationship journal and you feel bad?
in a paradoxical kind of way, it's good because then you're seeing how you're contributing to the conflict. This is the key. One of the
Yeah, now
keys.
now that's step 4. That's the tricky and really exciting thing, to where you see that you're creating the very reaction in this case, Bosley, with your father, that you're complaining about. Now, how would that work? How would this reaction of Bosley make his father become more suspicious and paranoid and feeling hurt and left out and just contribute to the dynamic between them that Bosley's complaining about.
Everyone wants to feel cared about and respected. So then when Bosley's communicating with him in a way that his father doesn't feel cared about or respected, I think that would escalate his feelings of upsetness and anger.
Yeah, yeah. So who's forcing Bosley's father to be controlling and paranoid?
Bosley.
Yeah. So that's how it works. And if you can tolerate it, it's a good thing, the step four, because it shows you have more power than you think. And if you have the power to be creating these negative reactions in the other person, you also have the power, should you choose to use it, to respond with the 5 secrets of effective communication and shift the relationship onto a more loving and emotional level. Uh, and Also, some sage once said the whole problem in relationships is trying to solve the problem, and that's the cause of the problem. And the refusal to solve the problem is nearly always the solution. What would that mean, Rhonda?
That we can't throw solutions at someone and think that they'll actually work. They have to develop them. They have to develop the insight and the change themselves. They have to see their own contribution and then make a decision to react differently and then put the work in to learn the 5 secrets and to react in a different way, in a
Yeah,
more respectful, caring way.
yeah, that's generally true. A precise answer to my question is that they're trying to figure out what career path Bosley should go down and what city he should live in, right? That's what they're arguing about. And Bosley's wanting more autonomy, and the father's being more controlling. And try to solve that problem. What city to go to will just keep making the problem worse and worse.
Mm.
But if you refuse to deal with the problem and instead acknowledge the other person's feelings in a loving way, so the other person feels understood and cared about and listen, often the whole tone will soften. And once you're having a loving relationship, you see, why does Bosley's father want Bosley to listen to him?
Because he believes that he has the right answers, that he's looking out for his best interests, and that he has, and because he loves him, right?
Yeah. And what is he hoping for from his son?
He's hoping for reciprocity and love in return and acknowledgement and
Yeah,
gratitude.
right. That's what most fathers want. And what is Bosley not giving his father?
He's not giving him any of those things.
Yeah, right.
He's running away from him.
Right. So there's no guarantee that we can change the situation. You don't always get what you want, but we can massively increase Bosley's chances. And by the way, you say he's running away from his father. And what's the best way for a little rodent to make sure a cat doesn't come after it?
I don't know, but I
Well,
don't know
a
cats and road.
lot of them turn around and run, and then what does that force the cat to do?
Chase him because it's kind of
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
So it's the same kind of deal here, and we're going to see that in the next example too after Matt joins us. But
Hmm.
let's try for a 5 secrets response now. Uh, if I'm saying, if I'm playing the role of dad, you want to try for a 5 secret response?
Okay. I haven't written
Well,
anything down. I'm just going to do it off the top of my head.
yeah, you know, Bosley, you keep scheming and going down this or that twisted path instead of doing what I tell you to do.
Yeah, that's right. I have been doing that. I haven't been doing what you've told me to do. And as a result of that, we've been fighting and arguing a lot. I really want a close relationship with you. I'm kind of yearning for that closeness with you. And you're telling me that you want me to take this business course and you don't want me to do this volunteer work and you want me to not live in the city that I want to live in. And I'm imagining you're feeling really disappointed with me. And maybe you're feeling rejected by me and hurt. and also angry. I'm feeling frustrated and stuck too, and I'm feeling like I'm not being, I'm feeling rejected and kind of lonely in our relationship, and I don't want that because you're really important to me and I want to have a close relationship with you, like I said before. So I'm wondering, could you tell me more about, what it's been like for you that we've been fighting so much and that I've been rejecting what you've been asking me to do? Because you really matter to me and I want to know those things from you.
Great. And now, what grade would you give yourself?
I actually kind of like that. I'm there's did I miss one of them? I think I'd give myself a B plus A minus.
I'd put you more in the A minus. Uh, I'd go for B plus A minus, but it was much closer to A minus
Hmm.
because I thought it was really beautiful.
Thank
Um,
you.
and there's a question that I want to ask you that I've never asked you before, and it's something that you've never heard. Uh, but is there one emotion that no therapist in the United States has ever once acknowledged and will never be able to acknowledge?
Is that anger? Did I? I didn't acknowledge Bosley's anger.
uh, uh,
Uh-huh. You're right.
let's see. Um, now, but maybe you did though.
No, I
So you did
acknowledged the
early. I
dad's anger.
imagine you're feeling disappointed, rejected, and hurt and angry. But then at the bottom, you didn't come back to it with your
Right. I didn't
inquiry.
say it right.
Yep.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And so if you were just to add something at the end, kind of like, can you tell me, Dad, if I'm on the right course here? Have you been feeling hurt and kind of rejected and maybe even pissed off at me or feeling disappointed in me as a son? I'm really ready to listen and I want to know how you've been feeling because
Mhm.
I really love you so much. How's that?
That's really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, that's just for the inquiry part at the end, but I
Hmm.
thought you did great. But why would that be beautiful?
I think that would be such a strong opening to a true conversation about what the dad's experience has been, and that
Yeah,
you're not going to be arguing about what the career path is, like you said. They're not going to argue about the city, but they're going to be talking about their real, true feelings in their relationship.
yeah. I think that's what a good relationship is. So do you sometimes tell me what your feelings are?
Yeah,
Is that important?
yeah,
Do I sometimes tell you what my feelings are?
yes, you definitely do.
Yeah, is that important?
Yes,
And so do we sometimes disagree on things?
yes,
Uh-huh. And could we do that if we weren't dealing with our feelings?
no, not as well.
Yeah, like I had this idea to do a month on practical philosophy, and I think it kind of turned you off. And then Fabrice was saying that I didn't have the correct solutions for people. And then Matt was saying, "Oh, people aren't going to like what you have to say, David." And I was getting all of this pushback. But it seems the interesting thing is that we were able to say how we're feeling
Yeah,
rather than trying to get to some correct answer. Should we or should we not have our practical philosophy month?
yeah,
And so I think that's about the teaching method. And so first Bosley would have to learn to write out a five secrets response, and he might have to write five different versions on five different days before he gets a good one.
all right.
Study the five secrets, and then once you've done it on paper, then you want to role play like what you and I are doing until you get an A or an A plus in the role playing. And only at that point, then you can try it with your father.
Mm,
And that's my prescription. And it's not an easy one. And most people aren't going to have the patience to learn to do that. And most people, uh, you're not going to change your relationship with your father or with your partner or whoever.
mhm.
Uh,
Well, what you're talking about too, that's really important. And this is a step that I skip, which is that you want him to write out 5 different versions. Then you want him to maybe speak it into the mirror, and then maybe role play it with a friend or, a close person in his life.
Yeah.
And then speak it to his father.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not willing to go to all that work. And
Mhm.
so David says, well, you don't have to. You might just prefer to keep sucking on that conflict.
Yeah.
You're addicted to bitter milk,
Yeah.
rancid milk.
Yeah.
Uh, that wasn't a nice thing to say, David.
No, that wasn't a nice thing to say, but sometimes conflict, I'm not saying this with this Bosley, but sometimes conflict you can just get into what is like a whirlpool of it, and sometimes conflict can be a little addicting. Or I don't know, maybe it's not the
Your
conflict,
your
but
your
the
your statement, sometimes conflict can be addicting, is partially correct.
Mhm.
There's one incorrect uh, word in there.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, now, speaking of great things, our most beloved pal and buddy and friend and genius colleague, the great and awesome Dr. Matthew May,
Oh,
is joining in the fray.
oh, David, Rhonda, so good to be back with you.
It's good to be back with you.
What a warm welcome. Thank you.
I know. Sweet.
Yeah, the same, all of that is more true of both of you than me. But I'm glad to be a part of such an amazing team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that we're a team.
Well, we're going to dive right in here. We just did a relationship journal with a young man named Bosley who has a conflict with his father, and we hope our words will be helpful to him. And our next one is a fellow who wants to date Muslim women, but he's getting ghosted. And so we're going to do a second relationship journal and also use our dating skills abilities to help this really cool fellow out. We had quite an exchange of emails, and I got him. He sent 2 relationship journals this morning that I was able to weave into the show notes, and I think it's going to be very illuminating for people.
Does he want to date Muslim women because he himself is also a Muslim, and that's an important quality for
Yes,
him?
uh-huh,
Uh-huh.
uh-huh.
Okay.
I gave him a name, Willie. He wanted his name disguised.
Okay, great.
And I was thinking of Bill, but then I thought about Willie, because Willie Nelson is 91 and still singing his heart out and sounding great. And
Nice.
so I thought Willie would be a sexier name
Yeah.
for a
And
young, studly Muslim guy.
and Willie Nelson has a lot of success with women, I imagine.
Well, I would imagine he's a rock star.
Yeah. Well, let's turn this Willie into a rock star.
Yeah.
So he
Yep.
asks why women he's dating ghost him instead of working out the problems in the relationship using the techniques in your book, Feeling Good Together. Good morning, Dr. Burns. I hope you're doing well. I want to start off by saying that I love your books, and they've played a massive role in changing my personality for the better.
Would you
However,
read that line again? I didn't quite hear it.
however, there is a question I struggle with. In Feeling Good Together, you say that one can keep status quo, solve their problem, or walk away from the relationship. I lean very strongly on the side of always wanting to solve problems. However, at my age, most girls I date err on the side of just walking away, and this opens me up for unnecessary headache and pain. I don't know where to draw the line. My heart says that any 2 reasonable adults can always make a relationship work, given that at least one wants to make things better. Unfortunately, this does not seem to be the case in my experiences. Your insight would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for taking the time. Best regards, Willie.
Okay. Well, we could talk briefly about our thought about what he's just said, and then we can look at his relationship journal examples. But
Mm.
The he to give slightly more information about this. he says that the women that he meets through dating sites, they may be living 1 or 2 states away.
Oh,
And so he gets into, I guess, Zoom or some type of dialogues with them. But once the issue of religion and prayer and things like that come up, the women ghost him. When they're saying that religion and praying is very important to them, and then something happens, and they're gone. Uh, and so do either of you have an idea on this? I had an idea, and I'm willing to spit it out early or late, because 60% of my practice when I was in private practice was single people who were having trouble in the dating world. So I had tons and tons of men who had this issue with, at a certain point, women reject me, and that's why I wrote Intimate Connections.
hmm.
And it's very clear to me that the rules that govern the game playing phase of a relationship are radically different from the rules that govern the getting close, using like the tools and the feeling good together, the 5 secrets of effective communication. But you guys can go first, or I'll just spit out my thinking either way.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, David.
Yeah, me
And
too.
yeah,
Oh,
I just like to give him a little empathy and say, I feel really sad about what he's going through, and wondering if he's feeling lonely and disappointed and a bit hopeless.
well, I
Just
don't
kind of
think he's
sad.
feeling hopeless, but I'm sure he's feeling sad and put down and discouraged,
Mm,
because I went through that myself
mm,
tremendously, even up through the time I was in medical school, because I never learned the ropes. But I think
mm,
we all need a little bit of warmth and support for sure.
hmm.
But
Well, I'm glad he's not
the
hopeless.
yeah, no, he's being courageous.
Hmm.
And I asked him to send in a relationship journal, and within an hour he'd sent me 2.
Wow.
Of what did the woman say and what did he say next before he got ghosted. But let me tell you what my theory was even before I saw those relationship journals, because it was the same with almost every single man. Single men and single women were a little different. But the thing with single men is that they refused to play the game. They wanted to jump into something serious right away, and then that forced the woman to reject them. And sometimes when you're involved in a relationship, and then things start getting more serious, and then you try to start talking about having babies or what you're going to do when you get married, and you're all these demands that you have and these strong beliefs that you have, and that turns the other person off, and then they start pulling away from you, and that forces you to chase them, and that forces them to reject you. And I saw that pattern go on over and over and over again. And anyone who's had a cat knows this pattern exactly. Cats are not like dogs, and women are not like dogs. With a dog, you say, "Come here," and they come and they lick your face and let you know you're the greatest thing since a dog bone or something like that. But cats are not like that. You can't just snap your finger and demand love from a cat. You've got to kind of ignore them and let them chase you, let them come to you. And that's the thing that all the men needed to learn, and also not to be so damn sincere all the time. Yeah, I had a fellow who was even one of my uh, you know guy I was supervising once was being kind of really nice to the ladies, and my wife said, "Well, this guy's got to learn to be a little bit more of a bad boy." And he's just too damn nice. And I gave him some bad boy training, and all of a sudden, all these women were chasing after him. And so that's the pattern that I see. If you guys want to comment on that, then we can look at the relationship journal.
Yeah, I agree, David. That dating is really confusing, and it's very uncommon for both people to be simultaneously at the same level of desire to
Yeah,
move forward like that. That's just very unusual. There's usually one person who's a bit in the chasing role and trying to move the relationship forward, and another person who gets freaked out by that and starts to pull away. And then the more they pull away, the more the chaser chases and say, no, no, let's make the relationship work out. And it's like anti-bargaining, where instead of
yeah,
arriving at the common area,
yeah,
they get further and further apart. And I'm reminded of our dear colleague Jerry Piaget, who talked about intensity matching. And it's like a dance where you meet that person where they are at in the emotional uh, level of, how much do they want this relationship? And if they want it less, then you fall back even a little half step behind,
Hmm.
rather than trying to pull them forward, trying to change them. And so I think that might be part of the game that you're describing there.
yeah.
But these could be slightly different topics. I'm not sure.
Well, there's two topics mixed in together, but you're definitely on the right track. How about you, Rhonda?
Well, I know that there's a lot of talking about how women are attracted to the bad boy. I like how Matt put it that it's an intensity match, or a like you might want something more than the other person wants, and you don't want to appear needy or um like you need to be taken care of, because that's kind of a turn off to to a lot of
Yeah.
people, men and women. But I'm also thinking that, I mean, can you do all those things and still be very sweet and nice and kind? Because I think that's I think of people are looking for kindness.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Absolutely. That's a great point too. Well, why don't we look at his relationship journal? He only filled out what did she say and what did I say next, and he gave us two examples, which you'll both see in the show notes in the landscape portion. And he thought he was using great communication because he didn't fill out what was she feeling and what was he feeling. And so I sent him a note. You're going to have to redo these, buddy. But we have enough to see why he's getting rejected. You want to read the first one, Rhonda?
She said, "Religion is super important to me. As a Muslim, I want my partner to pray 5 times a day." And he responded, "Religion is super important in today's day and age. It is a part of our culture, and I definitely want to introduce my kids to it. However, I don't think that prayer in and of itself makes you religious. If anything, the more external your religion means, the higher likelihood of hypocrisy. In my mind, everyone's religion is between them and God. So the best you can carry is one that no one else even knows of, kind of like charity."
Right. Now, before we comment on that, how was she feeling when she said religion is super important to me, and as a Muslim, I want my partner to pray 5 times a day. What are the names of her feelings, Rhonda?
What was she feeling? She was feeling
Now,
concerned.
he was also saying a lot of these women have had trauma, sexual, religious related trauma, and kind of abusive interactions with men.
Hmm. So I think she was feeling a little anxious or
Mm-hmm.
maybe nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe she was feeling concerned and
Yeah.
curious, but maybe curious isn't strong enough. I think she was feeling, I don't know, maybe a little, yeah, that's all. I can't think what else could she be feeling. I think she's feeling curious, concerned, a little nervous and worried, maybe some sadness.
Yeah. Is she feeling some loneliness?
I mean, she could be, but
Well,
I
she
don't,
says, I want a partner who would pray five times a day. Why does she want a partner who would pray?
because religion is super important to her.
Uh-huh. And does she have such a person?
Not yet.
And does she feel lonely because of that?
Yeah, probably.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
She might be an older woman who hasn't found that yet. Uh, uh, any other?
Is he older?
Well, I think they're both a bit older. I didn't ask for the ages, but
Oh,
I
uh-huh.
at some one point he mentioned, that he's a bit older.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So
would
lonely,
she,
concerned, anxious, worried,
mhm.
maybe a
How
little
about,
frustrated.
yeah, yeah, and why would she be frustrated?
Because she hasn't found what she's looking for yet.
Hmm. Yeah.
And she
Uh,
doesn't know if she's going to find it with him.
so would she be feeling then disappointed, or did you say discouraged just a minute ago, or not?
I don't remember. I might not have,
Discouraged,
but discouraged.
hopeless. Uh, yeah. And did you say sad?
I did say sad. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. And then and so now let's do our and then EAR. I mean, well, and how do you think he's feeling?
I think he's feeling, um, I think he's also feeling a little depressed and unhappy, also worried and nervous, maybe a little panicky. It sounds like there's some panic with him. I think
Mhm.
that he might be feeling inferior or defective and also lonely. I'm wondering if he's feeling rejected
Mhm.
already by what she said and maybe a little humiliated. Um,
Yeah.
Also frustrated and probably irritated.
Yeah.
I read irritation and anger in what he said to her.
Yeah. Right. Um, so now doing EAR, and we'll pull you into it. How did he do in his response? First of all, he thought he was doing EAR. Yes, yes, yes. I'm doing great communication. Is he on empathy? Is he acknowledging her feelings and exploring her feelings and point of view?
Not at all.
Right.
So that would
What
be
is?
bad communication. He ignored her feelings. And
Uh-huh.
actually, in his response, he was insisting that she was wrong.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, is that on the bad communication checklist?
Yes, that's on the bad communication checklist.
Yeah. And then on the I feel statements, see, he's preaching at her, right? He's
Yes.
arguing with her. He
Hmm.
thought that was, he gave himself an A+ for assertiveness. What grade do we give him?
He gave himself an A+ for assertiveness. I would give him
Well,
an
yes,
F.
yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry. I
right.
feels
Yeah.
bad to do that, but I would give him an F for assertiveness.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why the five secrets aren't easy. People think they're doing these things when they're not. And that's you, the listener. You do this too. You are screwed up as he is. Now, I don't say things like that because I'm supposed to be polite to all of our listeners. But if I weren't polite, that's what I would say because it's true. And, I do these things too. I make these same errors. And then is he treating her with warmth and respect?
No,
EAR.
no,
Uh,
not at
it's,
all.
so he's kind of putting her down and telling her that her complaints and concerns are not valid.
Right.
And so how is she going to feel?
Even more rejected, angry, um,
Hmm. Yeah.
and rejecting,
Hmm.
pushing him
And
away.
yeah. Is he proving to her that he's not the guy she's looking for?
100% he is proving
Yeah.
that that she's not the right person for him, and he is not the
Yeah.
right person for her
Yeah. So why does he get ghosted, Rhonda?
because he proved that he was not the right person for her.
Yeah. And so who forces Muslim women to ghost this Muslim guy?
Willie does.
Yeah, Willie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful analysis, Rhonda.
Well,
And
thank you
it's
for your
just,
coaching.
yeah. Well, you didn't need much coaching there, but it's so clear. It's crystal clear. What would you add on this one, Matt? On this
Oh
analysis
yeah, I
we
think that
just
was a
did?
beautiful analysis, right? I mean, it's so humbling. But right, Willie's not alone. I've done thousands of these, and every single one turns out to prove that we're causing the other person to treat us in exactly the way that we don't like.
Yeah,
And you've called it the death of the blaming self. It's so humbling, and yet it also creates this opportunity to be reborn and change our ways.
yeah,
Um, one other thing I might add, just on the list of feelings that she might have, is that if he's advertising online on dating sites that he's a Muslim man, that she could also be feeling angry or betrayed or um, annoyed or resentful.
Hmm.
If her definition of a Muslim man is someone who prays 5 times a day,
yeah,
uh, and it could be useful to acknowledge that he's maybe let her down or deceived her in some way, and that must be pretty angering.
yeah.
Oh, that's a
And
great point.
That's beautiful, Matt. Yeah. Uh,
and and one other thing would be shame. Like often in a community, it's so important to be praying and to be a part of that community. And if it's found out that she's dating a man who doesn't pray, that could feel kind of shameful to her.
oh
Or
yeah,
um,
yeah. Well, that's another beautiful
Right.
dimension you brought to it. Um, uh,
and he's not
so
acknowledging those feelings either. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and so the theoretical response would be to respond by being other centered rather than self centered. In other words, to focus on her concerns and where she's coming from rather than be, a big neon sign promoting his value system and entering into an argument with her to show concern for her. That would be showing her that he's the guy that she's been looking for. And, arguments about religion are not religious. They're uh, anti-spiritual. Uh,
hmm,
and that's
Hmm.
true in all religions, not just Muslim. It's true in Jewish, in Christian, and Buddhist and atheist. Human beings want to be respected and cared about. So now can we bring this to the next level of role playing this and if you'd like, Bat, you can be the guy, and Rhonda, you can be the lady here,
Okie doke.
and let's
sounds good. Yeah.
role play his exactly what this woman said, and then you can give us an awesome response, Matt.
I'll try.
Well, Willie, religion is super important to me. And as a Muslim woman, I want my partner to pray 5 times a day.
Oh wow, I'm really glad that you're bringing that up and admiring you so much for that, honest uh, vulnerability on your part. You really want a partner who will pray 5 times a day, and I'm feeling kind of embarrassed or a little ashamed because that's not something that I've been doing, and I can imagine that that might be a little frightening to you or upsetting, and you might even be a little bit angry because I portrayed myself as a Muslim man online, and you were probably expecting that's part of what I was saying in my profile. And I'm just really interested in hearing more about what your thoughts are. You said religion is super important to you. I just love that about you, and I'd like to learn more about it and to hear if I'm understanding how you're feeling. How am I doing at getting you? Are you feeling afraid or worried or annoyed with me or angry? Tell me more.
Uh, Shall I respond or just,
No, that's great,
yeah.
great. First of all, what do you give yourself, Matt?
Somewhere in the B range.
And can you explain why it was in the B range, not in the A range by your personal assessment? Like where you were missing?
I'm not exactly sure. Something about it just felt not quite right. But yeah, I'd love to hear the outside perspective on that.
But let's hear from, what grade did you give it, Rhonda?
Well, Matt, I don't have you on a pedestal because I know sometimes you make mistakes, but I would give that an A triple plus, actually. I felt understood. I felt connected with. I loved how you said that you felt embarrassed. Uh, um, I like how you began with that you were glad that I brought this up and that you were admiring me for being so vulnerable. That made me feel really safe with you. I liked how you said you might be feeling angry because I portrayed myself as a Muslim, but I don't pray 5 times a day, and that I like how you said religion was important to you, and your inquiry at the end was so very specific about what I was feeling. I just felt like it was a huge opening for me to tell you exactly how I was feeling and keep talking about it.
Okay,
So
that's
are
good.
you saying that as the cat, you're ready to jump right up into Matt's lap and curl up and start purring?
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, awesome. And
I learned it from you, David. So thank
yeah,
you.
anyway, I mean, it's you know, a lot of these are religious principles too, of being other-centered rather than self-centered.
Hmm.
And even in a dating world where there's so much, you know, uh, phony baloney going on all the time and game playing all the time, you're showing that, you know, genuine warmth and vulnerability and openness and caring for another person can be sexy. Would you find Matt sexy?
Yes, exactly. I would. You know, in the beginning of this conversation, I said, I'd like there to be a place for kindness. And that's really what came forward was
Yeah,
kindness. And I found
yeah,
that very um,
sexy.
attractive. I found it really attractive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then another question here would be, oh yes, also in that conversation, I think another direction I'd want to go in is, can you tell me too, well, let's say her name is Rhonda, just to keep it simpler. Can you tell me more, Rhonda, about what your experience has been in the past with men and, you know, with people who were or were not religious or who had genuine spiritual Muslim practices and perhaps encounters with people who were not genuinely religious or spiritual.
Hmm.
Would that be appropriate?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Don't you think
Because
so?
do I? Did you
Yeah.
say? Or,
Yeah. I mean, you're just so opening. You're just making it, I mean, I don't know, the word safety just keeps coming up. You're making it so
yeah,
safe for me to
right.
open up to you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and be
And that's
vulnerable and share these real thoughts and feelings and experiences.
and so that's sexy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so at the end of the statement, could you say something like, "Should we start working on babies right now?" But anyway, well, guys, you guys did so beautifully on that. Any
Mm.
concluding comments of yours, Matt? And then we can, if we have time, we'll read the last example he gave, which was just another version of the same thing. But you guys have kind of said it all.
Yeah, I think I know why I was giving myself a B earlier. And I think the outside perspective is maybe more valid, but I realized that there may have been an ongoing argument around this, like maybe this had gone back and forth a couple times, and maybe I had already kind of pushed away this idea of prayer. And I thought
Oh,
maybe another option would be to discuss that maybe I've kind of rejected that or been kind of trying to force my own thoughts about religion onto her.
yeah,
And that's kind of embarrassing to me as
yeah.
well.
Right.
And
My exemption, this is the first time that this happened,
okay.
you know, that like when women bring up things, all of a sudden I get ghosted.
Oh, I
You
see.
know,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, yeah.
no, that he's got merchandise he's trying to sell.
Hmm.
And
Maybe I
uh,
would what about saying something like, that's really interesting to me, and I think if praying 5 times a day would lead to our being together, then that actually would answer all of my prayers. And
Yeah.
I'd be willing to do that,
Yeah.
and to just
And then you
be.
could pray right now, oh Lord, please help me have sex with this woman tonight.
I don't think that's one of the 5 prayers.
Right.
That's not one of the.
I don't mean to be disrespectful
I
here.
don't.
But
Well, let's jump into the other one because it's similar but different.
yeah, okay.
I'll have Matt do it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll read through that one. So, she said, all kinds of drugs are bad, and I don't want to date anyone who does them. And he said, I strongly agree. Any kind of drug that can open you up to addiction can have a lot of negative effects. And that's one of the reasons why I don't even drink coffee. On the other hand, latest research does suggest that drugs like hallucinogens can have positive effects on people. So even though I don't do them, I have tried once and keep an open door for them, primarily because they are not addictive.
Right. And so let's just quickly say, Rhonda, or Matt, you do the analysis on this one. We won't go into all the details, but
Yeah, I think again, the feelings would be things like feeling anxious, worried, panicky, nervous and frightened, feeling lonely, unloved, unwanted, rejected, alone, abandoned, maybe hopeless, discouraged, pessimistic and frustrated and stuck would be some of her feelings that she might have about this. Probably
yeah,
mostly in the anxious category, I'm
right.
thinking. And then he might also, my sense is that he felt maybe a little annoyed or irritated, and were pressured to have the same set of beliefs around drugs as her, similar in the prior
Yeah, right.
example. And yeah, maybe he's feeling lonely and unloved and unwanted
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, absolutely. And then is he showing an interest in her and her feelings?
Yeah, I think he's letting her down there.
Yeah.
He's not using inquiry. He's more like lecturing her on what he is saying is the truth. So he's clinging to
Yeah, he's
truth.
trying to impress her with his own intellect, isn't he?
Hmm.
Yeah,
All the latest research has shown,
Hmm.
and the bottom line, sweetheart, is you're wrong, and you better
Hmm.
admit it. Because if you don't, then you're to blame for this premature failure of our no longer to be upcoming marriage.
yeah, and I think he once again forced the ghost.
Right. Yeah, he's forcing her to reject him. Is it possible that she's had a bad experience with someone with drugs, herself or a loved one, maybe a boyfriend who died of drugs or got addicted to drugs? Has she had some bad experiences with drugs?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's super common. And so it makes sense that she might be carrying around some fear
Yeah.
and worry about that.
And then why is it that he didn't ask her about that?
I'm
He's too.
still, I'm, yeah, I'm still curious if he's feeling kind of pressured or pushed and irritated and annoyed, and those feelings are coming out in this kind of intellectualizing, rejecting way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's
Yeah.
feeling pressured to perform a certain way, and that
Yeah.
she'll like him more if he performs.
Yeah, yeah, and he's going to do battle with her,
Hmm.
and I'll show her
Hmm.
I know a thing or two, and so if she rejects me, that's on her,
Mm.
type of thing. And
Mm.
so much of our problems come from being self-centered rather than other-centered, and that's also on the bad communication checklist, which I should add that back to my version of the relationship journal, because you tick off the relationship errors that you're making, and which ones is he involved in? And you have that? Anyone have that bad communication checklist?
I don't have it right in front of me.
No, I have it.
Okay.
It's the EAR.
No, that's
Oh,
the
you mean
ear
the long
checklist.
one? Right.
Yeah,
No,
the
I don't
bad
have that one.
commun.
I mean, I
Well,
could get it pretty easily.
Oh, if you can pull it up real fast, I can remember some of them. Is he involved in truth?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And is he uh, involved in blame?
Hmm.
Uh,
I have
and
it.
yeah, okay, great.
Is he involved defensiveness?
Oh yeah, is he involved in defensiveness, Matt?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
definitely.
Martyrdom? You imply you're an innocent victim?
Well, that's the role he says he's in with women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Put down, you imply the other person is a loser.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. He's yeah.
Label labeling, you're labeling the other person. Sarcasm, your tone of voice is belittling or patronizing. I think so.
That's a
I think
yes.
so too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Counterattack, you respond with criticism. You respond to criticism with criticism.
Yep, I would say
Subtle,
he's doing
but
that. Yeah,
there. Yeah.
he's saying there's some truth in what you're saying, but you're overlooking something that's really important. That that's kind of obvious that people with superior minds like mine can see right off the bat.
Yeah. Scapegoating, you imply the other person is defective or has a problem.
I think that's in there.
Mm-hmm. Diversion, you change the subject or list past grievances.
No, I don't think he's doing that.
Self-blame, you act as if you're awful and horrible.
No, he's not doing that.
Hopelessness, you claim you've tried everything and nothing works.
No, he's not doing that one.
Demandingness, you complain when people aren't as you expect.
I'd say there's
He's
a
doing
little
that.
of that there.
Mhm. Denial, you imply that you don't feel angry, sad, or upset when you do.
No, that piece isn't in there, although he's certainly not acknowledging his feelings or her feelings, that's for sure.
Helping, instead of listening, you give advice or help.
Yeah, he's trying to help her and he's not listening to what she has to say. He's trying to help her with his superior knowledge of drugs.
Problem solving, you try to solve the problem and ignore feelings.
Yeah, he's ignoring her feelings, he's ignoring his own feelings, and here's a solution. Magic mushrooms would be good for a couple young Muslim couple to get started on the right foot.
Mind reading, you expect others to know how you feel without telling them.
Well, it could be because in both of the examples, he doesn't share any of his feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And passive aggression, you say nothing, pout, or slam doors.
I don't
I don't know if
see
he's
that.
doing that.
But he's making how many? Like 10 or 11 of those
Yeah.
communication errors?
Yeah.
And I think diversion could still be in there, that she might just be sort of asking, are you willing to not do drugs?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of getting into an intellectual
Oh, yeah.
conversation rather than answering that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. So, I thought you guys did great. The three of us, I thought, did great on these relationship journal questions. Thank you for joining us today, Matt. It's always a great thing to have you on the show. And we've heard through the grapevine that you're out in the dating arena yourself these days. And if any lovely ladies are listening, you might contact Matt through his website or his contact information on the show at the end. And also, if anyone's looking for therapy, I've heard that Rhonda Barovsky and Matt May are two of the greatest therapists on planet Earth. So don't hesitate to contact them if you're looking for a little personal help.
Thank you, David.
Well, I'm blushing thoroughly.
I know, me too.
But it's just an honor and a pleasure spending time with both of you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
I agree. It's such a great, I'm so grateful.
Oh, two
Yeah.
quick announcements.
To be here.
In August 8th to 11th is going to be the intensive at the South San Francisco Conference Center. So where do they go that's for therapists only, but it's the 4-day summer intensive. And where do they go to find out?
www.cbtintensive.com.
Yeah, so this is always the greatest event of the year in terms of teaching. And so if you really want to learn how to do team therapy to bring about rapid change for your patients quickly, dramatic and rapid change, make sure you go to the intensive. I think there are still some in-person seats left.
Awesome. Yeah, if there's still time, I would just underscore how incredibly powerful David's intensives are. I think it's just a mind-blowing, awesome opportunity if you're a therapist to learn really powerful skills. And it affects not only your work as a therapist, but also has a very personal impact. That's been my experience.
Yeah, thank you for that, man.
Me too. I've already shared that in other podcasts about what a magical, incredibly powerful experience it is to attend these
Okay,
intensives.
everybody, have a good one.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Okay.
David.
Bye-bye.
Bye.